Happy Saturday, fam. Hello, hello. We have a special guest here for the first time. I'll be introducing her momentarily. Come on in, guys. Say hello as you're joining into the room here. The question we have for this Saturday is right up here on the screen. Oh, and I misspelled it. I'm sorry. My bad, y'all. Do you feel like the work you are doing lines up with your purpose? Do you feel like the work you are doing lines up with your purpose? Yes or no, guys? Pretty simple question. Come in, answer the question really quickly. All right. So work. Bring your drinks. I have some passion tea today. What do you have, Adenike?
I went with coffee, so
yeah,
with mocha creamer.
I love that cup though. That is cute. I'm a coffee cup. It looks like it's like a matte finish. I love that. Yeah, it's basic, but it's super cute.
Thank you. One of my favorites.
Awesome. So we will go ahead and dive right in with your quick intro. Adenike, tell me a little bit about yourself, what you do, who you help.
Absolutely. So I'm a purpose coach and a career strategist. And I like to say that I like to help 40 plus years young professionals who literally have, they've had a full career. They've maybe been in their field for, 10, 15, 20 years or so. But they come to a crossroads where they understand that, hey, the title's not doing it for me anymore. Yes, I'm making good money, but I really feel like there's more. I feel like there's more, and they're seeking to figure out what that purpose is. And they just need somebody to help them walk through that process. So that is what I do.
That is awesome. I was just saying on the last live that I read this quote, and I'm going to keep saying that. I love it. It said, coaches are cheat codes. Get you one, sis. It's so true. Like anything that you want to do, when you think about it, a lot of times people think about this outside of the business arena and outside of the entrepreneurship arena. But if they have a challenge, they immediately go to, oh, okay, I need a coach. Let me get a health coach. Let me get a personal fitness coach. You know what? My kids are getting educated. They need teachers. Coaches are teachers as well, So when you're building almost anything else, you immediately go to, let me have a person that can kind of show me where I may not be able to see certain things. Because if you're trying to develop into another area, most of the time you have a couple of the blind spots. So that's the tough part about coaching yourself. Is you don't see those, So yeah, so that is awesome. That is awesome. So like I said, do you feel like the work you are doing lines up with your purpose? How do you feel about that right now, Adenike?
I do. As a matter of fact, I like to tell people that, don't get purpose mixed up with your career, because, like I said, when we get out here, a lot of times we're trained to, hey, go get a good college education so you can get a good job. And so most people have that hat on, right? And so they go in and, most people, we're thinking about getting bills paid. But there comes a point when you're, when things, when the bills are paid and you're still not quite feeling like that fulfillment, you're still kind of, it's not even all the time that people are dreading their work. They might enjoy it to some level, but there's this deep knowing on the inside that, hey, I'm not doing everything that I was maybe put here to do. And so that's when you really have to step back and say, okay, if I lost this job, tomorrow and had to figure it out and really wanted to figure out what was I created to do, what were the gifts, talents, and experiences, how all of those things came together to really point me towards work that not only is going to bring me joy, but that's going to make an impact in the world. That's where purpose comes in. And so I know that I am in my purpose, because I can tell you today that even if I stopped coaching, my purpose, the really core purpose, is that I've been designed to really help encourage, motivate people, help them gain awareness, and then, create strategies to go out and get that. And so there's a multitude of industries I could go, or a multitude of professions I could go into to do that. But I know what my purpose is. And so that keeps me grounded.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Another quick, easy way I know to see if you're lined up with your purpose is, would you do it for free? That's a simple question that a lot of people, have posed for you to really know if you're in your purpose or not. Because a lot of times, depending upon how hard you're working, especially as minorities, sometimes, especially as women, we're that notion is beat into us: work hard, work hard, work hard. Okay, you got all this stuff done. That's success, is getting all these things done in your day. Not necessarily balancing it with self-care. And so one of the things that that was a huge aha for me was when I finally did, because I went along that rail. I've very easily can flow into a workaholic. So I hit all the way down the workaholic because, as you know, sometimes when you're first building, when you're
Yeah.
at the beginning builder stages of your organization, it's all about those clients.
Yes.
It's all about really making sure you're engaging with your clients, you're taking care of them, and that you're getting more. So sometimes you get to the point where you're like, oh, wow, I'm getting them. Let me work even harder. Let me do even more, and that's the part that sometimes has to be balanced out as well.
Yeah.
So do I feel like I'm working in my purpose? I was kind of answering that. Absolutely. And one of the huge ahas I had was when I finally got the time to take some time off.
Okay.
Like during Christmas time, when I go on vacation, when I finally was like, okay, Tracy, you can go ahead. You can have this vacation for real. Not, I got this side work. I got that side work. I'm going to this year about vacation. No, you're going to have it. You know what I realized was I missed it. Yeah. I love building. I love helping people take something they're passionate about, take their calling, take something that's just a vision and turn it into something that's manifested. Yeah. I was like, you know what am I supposed to be doing? What do people do? What are we, you know what I mean? Like, I really knew that this was something that that is totally aligned with my purpose. So that's one of the questions to ask yourself is, are you in this? We talked about that a little bit before we came on. Are you in this, whatever this is, for a paycheck or, to survive? And sometimes, don't get me wrong, sometimes
you have to start there, right? Sometimes you got to start where you are. Yeah.
Absolutely. So that's totally okay. But asking yourself the questions and making sure that you take that time to check in with yourself and say, you know what? Okay, this is not quite, well, what are some little steps I can take? Yes, I still need to survive, so I still need to stay on this job or stay in what I'm doing. But what are some little steps that I can take to maybe pivot and start going closer towards something that I'm passionate about and that I feel is linked with my purpose?
And I think you hit the nail on the head there, because that was my process. I mean, literally, it was one of those situations where, you take something and then you find, oh, wow, I really enjoy this, and you do it. When you say you do it for free, that's true, because many of us we were doing the things we were meant to do and we were purposed to do before we ever considered it that. We just did it, right? We weren't getting paid. We weren't thinking about it as a business or as a career. And then when we realized, hey, wow, I could actually do this full time, then that's where, you really realize, wow, I can actually, take care of my family and make my impact in the world with this thing. So I think you hit the nail on the head there. And I think the other thing is, like I said, people really need to realize that it is a kind of a baby step type of a process, because, you really don't know until you get into that exploration process and you really start to see, oh, wow, I really like this about this job, or I really like this about this work that I did. And you start taking note of those things. Then when you get a few years under your belt, you're like, oh, wow, this is really starting to come together. I now see kind of it's starting to take shape. So you really do have to pay attention all along the way around the things that bring you joy and where you are getting, like I say, you're seeing that you're making an impact and people are coming to you. That's another way to identify purpose. People will just naturally gravitate towards you for certain things. That's why I'm saying we probably have been doing these things all our lives and not even realizing it, because it just came so natural and people just came to us all the time for these things. And, that's just how it played out.
Absolutely. That is so true. Because even our connection, now when I think about it, we just gravitate to each other and we're just kind of, I would say we were both kind of holding each other accountable and would run ideas off of each other when we were in the beginning builder stages of our business, and have kind of seen our different businesses kind of grow into different phases. One of the huge phases that that happened to you in the past, I guess we just realized it's almost 2 years, is you went from doing your work as a part-time thing, which, how long were you doing it part-time?
So the business, I was actually building up the business for about a year while I was in my full-time corporate job.
That's important, because two things just stood out about that to me. Number one, what you just said before, when you said it's not about, sometimes people think it's you're going to wake up one morning and and you'll have it all figured out. I know my purpose and I know exactly what I need to do. I have the whole plan. And I'm sorry to tell you that is the furthest thing from the truth. You never know what happens, but in every entrepreneur that I've talked to, it's never happened that way. It's all about each of those baby steps, and it creates clarity. I take this step. Oh, that created clarity. Oh, I don't want to go on live. I don't want to do this. Okay, maybe I'm more of a copyright when it comes to so you take little steps and you're able to really see if that is aligned, and then it grows from there. So it's more so, that's not it. That's not it. That's not it. And now the idea
narrowing it down.
is narrowing it down.
Yes.
So being okay with that process is huge. I'm glad you mentioned that, because that sounds like a process, don't it?
It is, without question.
Process. So what do they say? They say trust the process.
Yes, trust the process.
That is such an underrated quote. That's
really
been the theme of my last 5 years. Is I'll listen to a quote or hear a quote that someone told me years ago and has been saying for years, and be like, whoa, I just got it. But trust the process. That's so huge. A lot of times you don't want to do that. You're like, I want to skip to this step, or I want to start this, and then bam, just start a business and immediately got 30 clients. Well, even if that happens, how prepared would you be for that?
That's true. I mean, that's a phenomenon even in the business world. They say you grow too fast, meaning it's like, so yeah, you have the goods, you have the product, but you don't have infrastructure, you don't have systems in place, you don't have enough knowledge to really be able to sustain that and take it to the next level. And so, that's a crash and burn type of a situation. And I think the other problem with that is like I said, you really have to take time to really understand who you're called to serve, because what you'll find is that a lot of different people will be coming and they'll be like, well, can you do this? Can you do this? And you might be thinking, well, yeah, I can do those things, but is that what you're really meant to do? Is that what you're really called to do? And so, you will get burned out really, really quickly if you don't take the time to really understand, what, I got the most satisfaction and feel like I help help this person the most. I'm going to really focus in on that type of person, because I feel like that's probably my tribe. That's who I'm called to do. And so that's one thing I would tell people, listen, it's not about necessarily, this. It is obviously bottom line on the business side about getting sales, but you have to understand, is your quality of life, are you dreading, servicing these people? Are you, you really want to think about all of those things, because it's not just about the sales coming in, it's about the quality of the sales. And if it's really adding quality to your life, as well as adding quality to the person that you're serving.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I say at foundation, ask yourself why. Why am I doing this? Why do I really want to do this? It's so important, because that's what everyone else is going to look for.
Yep.
They're going to see your why energy, like, oh, I see why she's doing this, or oh, I don't quite understand why
she's doing this.
And so you want to ask yourself that why and have that foundation, like you said, because even if the worst thing that can happen, I say, is, because I'll tell you just a little bit about my story. Before I started as a business coach and a nonprofit coach, I had several businesses. Most people already know I had a daycare, I had a fitness studio. I started my first business when I was 10, started doing hair. I was just really passionate about business in general. But what you have to realize is the worst thing that will happen if you're doing something you're not passionate about is it will grow.
Yes.
I don't like to say anything I started, I got sales. That wasn't, so
yeah.
You really want to have this big old baby that's grown and you have to service, and you realize, oh my goodness,
I really don't
like this. I'm miserable.
Right.
That's the worst thing.
That is the worst
thing. So it's so important to hone in on your why. We got a couple of comments in here I'll go over before you tell us a little bit about your transition. A lot of people are transitioning. I would say probably about 70% of the nonprofits we work with are doing it part-time and or authentic business, doing it part-time and wanting to take that step into transitioning. So we're going to get a little bit of your insight. Marika said, yes, got to know your purpose. Absolutely, Marika. Yes. And Gayla said, it's wonderful feeling to be able to live and work in your purpose. Yes, it is. When you start to see that clarity and you're like, oh, wow, I'm actually now attracting exactly the clients that I know I can help. Not only do I know that I have some information that they will be able to utilize to grow, they're also in have the type of energy, have the type of relationship where they will actually take the information and utilize
it. I think
that's important too. Yeah. Because if you don't take the information and utilize it, what they end up doing is they end up blaming you. Like, oh, as my coach, or so, so you want to make sure that it's both, that it's a win-win, and so that's huge. Deandra, hey girl, she's growing a business right now as well.
Nice.
Good. I'm currently experiencing a shift and wanting to transition to my passion. That's awesome. Thanks for answering that question. And that's, every step is important. Realizing is important. Like realizing, you know what?
Yeah.
How can I shift more? How can I go ahead and I'm realizing that this is not quite this is a little bit, maybe
Right.
I can learn in this area, but this is not quite what I want to do. So that moment in itself is huge.
It
Good
is.
morning. Good morning, Wilhelmina. She said, trust the process. Yes, trust the process. Absolutely. That's so much easier said than done.
It really is.
Even when we say it, it sounds like something people just always say, trust the process, trust the process, but trusting the process is sometimes showing up in the business world. Here's a part that's a little bit I would say murky. In the business world, especially when you're starting off, and in the nonprofit world, you have to give, and people have to get to know you before they're going to start to trust you and trust you to be able to purchase your services or donate to your nonprofit. Sometimes people think just being in existence in itself is enough. And trust in the process is sometimes showing up for free. Have you had to show up for free in your business?
Absolutely.
Show up with, and that can be hard when you're transitioning from the career aspect, because you're used to showing up and just being here, something's coming in.
Right.
So tell us, we'll pause and we'll read some more of these comments as well. Tell me a little bit about that period for you, transitioning and taking your safe step.
Okay. And no, thank you for that. And so, I think, one of the comments hit the nail on you hit the nail on the head when you said you first have to realize that, you want to go to that next level, that you're ready to, make that shift. Once you realize that, then really that's where, you really have to sit down. And so for me, once I realized I had been with this company, the last company that I was with before I actually made the transition, I had been with them for 9 years. It was a great experience, a lot of great people. I got to do some things, but I realized that I had hit a wall in the sense that, my creativity, my ideas never stopped. I was always trying to come up with new and exciting ways to enhance the business, take the business to the next level, add value. And, they just, there was no place for it to go. My manager, she recognized that about me at the time. And she tried to give me little projects to, kind of keep me excited about life. But it's like, that's their business, right? I had to come to the conclusion that's their business. And, when I would present certain things, they would say, well, we'll take this piece. And so they'd make me strip it down, so there was all these things that were happening. And so, no hard feelings. I just realized, hey, if I want to do this thing the way I want it in my heart, I'm going to have to transition, into my own business. So what did that look like? To your point, there was a process to that. I had never run a business, and so I realized I got to get, some tools. I have to understand what it means to transition from an employee to an entrepreneur. We talked about mindset. That is the most critical step. And so what I tell people is literally when you start thinking, hey, I've got to make a move, the first thing you want to do is go find a community of people who have already made that move and really immerse yourself. Yeah, because you've got to get that mindset transition first and really understand, well, what does it take? Start doing your research to really understand, okay, I've decided I want to do that transition. If I were to build this thing out, from scratch, what would that look like? What would I enjoy getting up and doing every day? Who are the people I would most want to serve? You really have to take the time. That's where the process comes in. Getting yourself educated. You've got to get the right knowledge, doing some research. And even from a practical level, really looking at your finances, making sure that you have, everything set up in place to where you have a project. If you're saving, maybe you're using your job I started saving lots more money, stacking it away. I looked at my 401k and said, hey, if I needed to pull this down, what would that look like? So it's a lot of practical pieces, because then once you're ready to make that move, let me just say this, it's never going to be an exact right time. It's just not. But for me, the transition was, I came to the realization, first of all, that yes, it's time for me to go. Then I started, I jumped into community and started networking, understanding who I knew, getting around business owners. I started doing research. Okay, what would I do? How would that look like? What area do I want to go into? I started setting my financial house in order, and making sure that from that perspective, I at least had, a cushion to kind of fall back on as I made the transition out. And then, like I said, finally, the time came when it was time to go. And I knew it was time to go. There was no question. It was time to go. And so it was honestly, it was easier for me to do that because I had processed through that first part of things. And so, yeah, I gave my notice. I had things ready to go. I had my first client before I left. And I think that's another thing too. You want to test the waters.
Yeah.
from the perspective of even the free thing, I did several free clients just to make sure this is what I wanted to do, to really understand who I wanted to help.
And so, on that.
Right. Yes. It all came together. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Because you don't want, and I talked about this a little bit in our last live, you don't want to be an empty, shiny box.
Right.
Because it doesn't matter how many tools you have. It don't matter if you have a great website. It doesn't matter if you have, great flyers and great branding and, all your legal thing, everything set up. If you're not ultimately providing value, then everybody's had that experience before where they get the sales portion. I had that with a trip one time. I went to New Orleans, and they failed to mention that it was like everything was sized up. We were literally in like it felt like I was on a cartoon or something. I was like in a Smurfs, like heads. The pictures were beautiful. You just can't get the size scope sometimes. So, but everybody's had some type of experience where they purchased something that's seen on TV, or they've gotten something, they realize the value of this is not there. So that's where that education, that's where, okay, I want to coach in this area, or I feel like this is my purpose because maybe I've had a story that I've grown in this area. Well, let me check now. Is this transferable? Yep. Can I take how I've grown in this area and am I able to teach that and add that value and duplicate that in someone else's life? And if you're doing it experimental, I'll tell you even this. There are focus groups and experimental things where people will actually pay the person, to actually, so to be able to do it for free is amazing. So that's important that you've noted that, because some people are really, really scared, I would say, or are really just hesitant on stepping out for free and just making sure that,
And if I could just add to that, I think, there's this thing out there where, don't sell yourself short, you know your value. This is not a value thing. Again, if we're talking about, and what I mean by that is, if we're talking about purpose, when you're built to do something, you're already probably doing it. And so doing it for free, for people, again, that's just your market research. Again, you're adding value, but you're also getting information that you need in order to build your business. So when like I said, if you are always giving everything away for free, yeah, there may be some traumas there that, you got to work through. But in the beginning, when you're building a business, you're saying, hey, this is what I love. This is what I'm called to do. I want to share this value with you. And in exchange, tell me how I performed. Would you give me a testimonial? Would you refer me to your friends? And if you're doing it right, if you're doing it as if they paid you top dollar, then that's going to translate into the dollars down the line. So you're not ever going to lose out in a scenario like that.
That is win-win, and that's forward thinking. Yeah. And sometimes, that's where, and the reason I feel like you can do that is because you took all of those foundational steps that were required. Like you talked about earlier, getting your financial house in order, making sure when you are stepping off, you're not in that survival mentality. Because if you do step into something in a survival mentality, it smells and people automatically
desperation. Yeah.
Like, okay, wait, they try to survive. I don't know. You're always exuding some type of energy or whatnot. So don't shortcut yourself. Don't think that you can jump out there in that survival mode. You're automatically, even if you have the best product, even if it is the best service, if people don't know you, then they want to see, well, I'm not sure. I don't know you. So show me how you do this. Show me through the clients, show me through the stories that you have with yourself. How do you do that? Is sometimes showing up for free. So that is huge. We have a couple of more comments. It is so important to know and understand your why. Then it will be easier to walk in your purpose. Yes. And those hard moments, Marika, those tough clients or things like that comes into play. It's not as, of course, it's still tough, but it's not as tough because you're like, you know what? It's okay. This is actually, I'm glad that I had this experience, because what was tough about that? Okay, how did I handle that? How could I handle it in maybe a different way? So yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I love that. I love that why question, because it's kind of like a friend of mine used to say, when you're going to the gym, if you don't have a strong why behind why you're going there, when that pain starts hitting your body, you're like, why am I doing this? No, I think I'm just going to go have my Chick-fil-A and be happy, right? And so you have to have a why behind whatever you're doing, because that's the sustainability part of it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You have to have that there. And Tamika said, if you aren't following your purpose in business, the worst thing that can happen, thank you for posting that up there. The worst thing that can happen is it will grow. Absolutely. Absolutely. And let me tell you, I have been there where but at the same point in time, everything is a lesson.
Right.
So no matter what you go through, like I remember when I transitioned out of the daycare, I had a daycare for 10 years. That was my very first, I would say, big business or, really solidified business. I realized that I absolutely love the children and things like that. But I'm glad, of course, in hindsight, I'm glad I transitioned. It was huge for me to be able to bring work with me. Right. Not necessarily have to. That's what I felt like was part of my purpose. At that time, I didn't know at that time, but I will go on to do a whole lot of traveling, which I'm appreciative that I was able to do now, living in this time, during the pandemic and things like that, because of the work that I did. So I realized that was part of my purpose. Not to mention, I prefer teaching adults. I've always loved teaching, but I prefer teaching adults. They I don't have to necessarily worry about any type of security or any type of what's the word I'm looking for, issues and things that come into play as far as safety when it comes to children. So I learned from that experience. So that's so important. Thank you for posting that. Robert said nothing is free. You are always getting something, experience for your value. Guys, that's a huge nugget to take with you because, again, easier said than done. A lot of times people will immediately go to, oh, no, I'm not doing that. Or I'm not, they don't see the actual immediate dollar value behind this very moment. Yeah. Then they pause. They don't know how that works. And that's basically the difference between a business mindset and an employee.
I was going to say, if, when I was in corporate, actually, this is something we ran up all the time. I would always take on like a lot of extracurricular projects and things of that nature. And people were like, well, that's not in my job description. I'm not doing that. I would say to myself, listen, this is experience I'm going to be able to take with me no matter where I go. It's going to make me more marketable. It's going to make me, eligible for the next promotion. And so I always thought, Robert hit the nail on the head there. I always thought anything extra I'm doing, that's knowledge I'm gaining that now I get to use in a variety of different ways. Whereas if you have that mindset, it's not in my job description, you're going to stay right in that same spot because you didn't grow. You didn't stretch yourself. You didn't do that extra. So,
and that is what sets you apart. That's how you knew entrepreneurship, your purpose, because that is what sets you apart and what is not in a lot of individuals. Even for, even think about like one of my favorite stores or my favorite coupons to get in the mail is $10 or $20, no minimum purchase. I'm like, that is free money. I'm going in. I'm going to wherever that is, Ross, whatever, the shoe store, whatever it is. But let me tell you, 9 times out of 10 that I would take a coupon like that and go into the store, exactly what would happen. Because that's thinking like an entrepreneur. I'm thinking like a consumer or an employee. I would always come out of the store with 3, 4, 5 times what got me in there. But they had to put that initial investment up. How many people did they send that out to? You know what I mean? They had to put up the initial investment of the actual coupons, getting them printed, and of taking that L, so to speak. If someone did come in, get their whole just $20 and that was free, so to speak, right? And they were okay with that because they knew that giving out that free in the end would pay off. So that's huge. That is huge. Coach Austin, one of our favorite business coaches, said it can be difficult, yet it's easy when your end game has to be considered. You must do the 3-3-3, 3 free, 3 half price, then you charge. That's a good point, Coach Austin. That, like, when I read that, I think about you as a seasoned coach, someone who's been doing this for some time. Would you say that same information would go into place if it's brand new and they're just entering and haven't created branding? What do you think, Adenike? Did you immediately? So again, you were saying you didn't immediately start charging, correct?
Well, and what it is I definitely came in at, just a price point that I felt comfortable with. So it was definitely lower than what my price was, probably 3 times lower than what my price point is. But when I say free, it's like, if someone wanted me to come to a networking event or, a corporate function or something like that, I absolutely did that for free. And then I also, in the beginning, offered, like for 30 days, I just did free 45-minute sessions, just said, hey, bring, one problem and we're going to work through it in this 45 minutes. And see, for me,
girl, yes.
I know. I'm telling you, I was working hard in the beginning.
You paid your dues.
Right. You got to get your name out there. You got to build up. You have to, have people come in and say, wow, I got something absolutely value. And did some of those refer people to me, 6 months down the line? Absolutely. Did that turn into cash down the line? Absolutely. And so, my heart is to help people. And so to do that, you can't do that obviously all the time because that will wear you out. But I mean, to kind of put out that, to your point, to put out that initial giving, knowing that when people see the value that you bring and the fact that you actually care, that's going to come back to you. So yes, I did quite a bit of free in the beginning. And like I said, I did some reduced price as well. And so that allowed me to build my visibility.
You always want to have one thing that I would say in our particular organization that has been beneficial is having those different levels. We are set up as a nonprofit organization. So of course, there are several things that we do where we're linked with other nonprofits and come in and do free programming. We also have several types of different packages. I'm really, really big in the entrepreneurial mindset on individuals investing something, or the concept spiritually of sowing a seed, you know what I mean? Whichever, depending upon what bracket they're on, sometimes that's a small amount for someone and a larger amount for someone else, but sowing some type of seed. So we have our free programs. We have our programs for individuals who may be in a lower income bracket and may not have a lot to work with as far as finances. Guess what? There's going to be a little bit more work that goes along with that as well. If you don't have as much to invest, you have to be willing to give in some area. So if you're not going to give in the actual investment area, okay, I may need you to learn this program as opposed to being able to have someone do these complete services for you, if that makes sense.
That makes sense.
And so having that variety, but knowing that some portion of it, both Coach Austin and both Adenike, the same thing here, some aspect of it has to be, let me show you, because you don't know me. So let me show you my why. Let me show you, and that's in giving and adding value. It may be in a segment just like this that we're doing right now. Exactly. We're sitting down, we're donating our time, adding value. We're doing it in a productive way, because as opposed to sitting down with 20 people this week in this type of segment, we're able to sit down with 300-400 individuals, and they're able to learn and get some value from this. So this is a great way, doing lives, doing videos and things like that, to be able to show up as a nonprofit. I would actually say anyone who is comfortable on camera should be showing up, telling their story on video, live, recorded in some type of way. That is going to automatically kick your business or your nonprofit up times 10. Absolutely. Because you learn so much from it.
You do.
You've been doing some lives already for some time on Facebook, and we're, of course, guys, we're going to have Adenike's information as well for you to be able to link in with her and follow her and see what type of services she offers. You've been already doing some lives. Tell us a little bit about that and transitioning and getting comfortable on camera.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, I've been doing lives for probably since the beginning. Sometimes I do more, sometimes I do once a week. Sometimes I will go for 2 to 3 weeks at a time, depending on what I'm doing. But I have found that the lives are really, really helpful because, again, it really allows people to get to just bond with you a lot simpler. I mean, I'm not polished in the sense that, I've come on with a complete script. I have, kind of the topic I want to talk to. And then when people start engaging, they're really able to ask those questions to let them know, hey, does she really understand? Does she really relate? Does she really have information on this particular area that I'm looking for? And so it was, for me, I would say I've never been necessarily camera shy. I've always been one, I've done lots of presentations. I was a trainer in my former career. And so I was always up in front of a lot of people. So that's never been an issue for me. It was a little different in the sense that because you don't have the energy of the crowd to kind of draw from, it feels a little funny, and a lot of people I know may shy away from it for that reason. But I did find that people would out of the blue be like, hey, I saw your live. I really enjoyed that. And you don't even know who's paying attention. So I did find that in the beginning, the lives, literally, I got several clients just from doing the lives, because people were able to see me in person. They could feel, kind of to your point, Tracy, you always talk about energy. The live does kind of put out there your energy and kind of your passion. And then, like I said, you're adding value on top of that. And so it was one of those things, like I said, I haven't quite got it to where I want it to be, but I do them regardless of how I feel. I do them even when I feel like, I don't necessarily know who's watching, because to your point, someone's out there getting the information, and you never know where that's going to come back, when they're going to come back and say, hey, I really enjoyed, I literally just signed a client for that very thing. She said, I saw your past live that really resonated with me. And she set up a call, and, we were able to kind of move forward from there. So I would just say anybody who's scared of lives, you want to just jump in there and get it done, especially when you have something of value, because in terms of making a quick connection with your audience, it really is, it pays dividends. I'll say it like that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's almost like, I like to think of it as almost like, what is it called? Cloning yourself a little bit. Because like, while, you may be off on a Sunday, so to speak, that doesn't mean that your little clone out there is not off. Somebody could be watching your video. Somebody could be. So it's just really working smarter, not harder. Not to mention, it's really just showing up. Yep. Because it's telling people that, hey, I'm still here. This is still what I do. This is what's going on. So even as a check-in or whatnot, because sometimes it's not even necessarily about, people are busy. Sometimes they might think, oh yeah, I need to get some of that coaching. I have been meaning to change my career for some time. And then they just forget. Well, here, Adenike pops up on there. Oh, yeah, that reminded me again. You know what? Let me shoot her a message. Actually, I was watching one of your lives when I shot you the message about
that. Is true. That is
so you got to show up, y'all. If you can show up in the external world since it's been a pandemic, a lot of people can't show up as much out there. This is a great silver lining and a way to show up to where you can do it times 10 the amount of time you can even do physically, so tell us a little bit about that, Adenike. Let's talk a little bit about that as we wrap up here. How has it been transitioning as a newer organization and coach with the pandemic? Has it been a growth for you, or has it been challenging?
It was growth without question. And again, I think that comes back to mindset. It's all about how you look at the thing. I understood that with everything going on, people needed, they needed joy and encouragement and motivation more than ever. And so in addition to everything else I was doing, that's where I literally started a webinar series. And I'm like, I really just started tapping into all my network and my connections and seeing who could I bring on that would really be able to give some valuable content and really encourage people, and really help them to know, hey, this is not the first time, we've had a dark season, and we're going to get through this just like the next one. But in the meantime, let's get our mind off of that and get our mind on what we can do and the solutions we can make. And so I found it very, very helpful. I personally started investing in myself as a coach to kind of increase my knowledge and, start getting, with Zoom, with everybody on Zoom and on the computer, you really could have a lot more meaningful conversations, so as opposed to going to a networking event where you maybe only meet one or two people, you could set up personal Zoom calls. And I did that all the time. I set up, one-on-one Zoom calls and met so many different people. And like I said, I expanded my offerings into webinars. I actually started doing digital products for people who maybe wanted something, kind of just to take and go, on a specific topic. So I found that it helped me to, like I said, invest in myself better, expand my offerings, get to know people better. And so I feel like coming into 2021, I'm actually on more solid footing than I was, even when I left, because those are some, you couldn't go anywhere, right? So you didn't have a whole bunch of stuff pulling at you. And so you had to get kind of focused and intentional on the things that you could do. So I found it to be a period of growth without question.
Absolutely. Same here. We talked about earlier in this call a little bit about how aligning with your purpose is not yesterday it wasn't there and you woke up in the morning and today it's here, So what I found was it made it easier for me to, okay, events are canceled. Okay, what am I going to do? Right. Now I can develop. Now I can work on myself. Now I can work on my business. Now I can align the people to my team that I need to. Now I have no excuse of, oh, they invited me here and, but I got to show up for that. Because I was the type that, I'll try to go and go to different events and things like that. But that's never honestly really been my thing anyway. Mm-hmm. It was more so kind of out of obligation. I'm really, really big when it comes to time and utilizing my time in a wise way. And not to say, guys, it's important to relax and enjoy family. But I just personally am the type that When I'm relaxing and enjoying and things like that, it has to be also something that's fully aligned with my full relaxation. So if it's for any reason, I don't want to go there, or I don't want to, I want to be, I work hard and I play hard.
Yeah.
So it's important so that was able to alleviate a whole lot of extra stuff, because now we can't do it. So now I don't have to come up with anything, or don't have to, okay, let me balance that out. No, now I can hone in and focus in on, I am more of an individualized. And it's so important, guys, for you to get to know yourself. Spend enough time with yourself to get to know yourself and what environments you thrive in. Right. I thrive a little bit more in virtual environments than I do in an environment with a whole lot of noise and a whole lot of things going on. Mm-hmm. That's just me personally. You know what I mean? It may be opposite for you, but it's so important to see what your strengths and what your weaknesses are to really be able to grow and really develop, and be okay with saying, you know what, I'm strong at that. Let me hone in on that. Mm-hmm. Let me get some people in my team to work on this area, because I don't want to deal with that. You know what I mean? So, last thing that I'll ask you, because it's always somebody who's just getting started or just about to transition, and they may have not gotten the first client yet. It may still be something that's in their mind, or an idea, or they might not even really necessarily feel like they can can work in their purpose. They might feel like work is just something that you bring in money, and I can't necessarily, I have a purpose, but it's so far away from. What would you say as far as the first step, and far as like just starting to ease out of that particular mindset?
Yeah. So, I mean, honestly, I think it really comes down to, like for me, when I started thinking about, well, what would purpose look like? I already had some ideas, but you really want to start checking in with yourself, and really kind of understand, where do I get the most energy from? Where do I get, where is my heart filled with joy the most? Kind of to what you just said, Tracy. You were saying that, hey, while we love certain people, sometimes we know that, being around them, there's going to be a drain, right? Mm-hmm. And so you really just have to you have to really sit down and check yourself. Like I said, I became big on journaling. And if I'm feeling, a certain type of a way, I want to sit down and kind of understand, why am I feeling this way? What is causing this? So identify your drainers, identify those areas then where you feel, like I said, where you lose yourself. You've heard that term flow, where hours just pass and, you look up and you're like, oh my God, I was really enjoying that. The time just flew by. What are those energizing areas? And so I think it's super important to really sit down and at least pinpoint one or two of those. Okay. Not to say that will necessarily be the end product, but you have to start there when you're thinking about, well, what does my purpose look like? Because again, you don't want to jump from the frying pan into the fire. And what I mean by that is, you may be thinking, hey, this is not it. So I know I want to be an entrepreneur. I know that much about myself. So let me just jump in here. And then, like I said, you get stuck, in this other thing, that then you have to kind of figure out how to get out of. So I would say first steps is, take time to inventory yourself before you start thinking about, again, you mentioned it, tools and techniques and, strategies and, what that's going to look like, kind of the glitz on the outside of the box. You have to take time, sit with yourself, I personally used to, there was a center that offered days of silence once a month. It was, I believe it was like a Catholic facility in Indianapolis. And every month that they offered it, I would go there. I would take a day off if I needed to. I would go there for that day of silence, and I would just sit with my journal and just, kind of lay out, okay, what would the perfect life look like for me? What is the work that energizes me most? You have to take some time, be with yourself, understand what that is. And then once you have, like I said, even just a starting point, then, like I said, you can begin connecting with the necessary resources, go to SCORE, start just attend stuff that seems interesting, because it's not that necessarily is going to be the thing, but it may lead you to the thing, and it's going to take you to the next step and the next step. So it's the process, guys. I have to say, without question, it all comes back to that process.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Do not underestimate the process. Do not underestimate small steps, and do not underestimate planning. Yes. That's what lights me up from day one, is planning, being able to plan something out, plan out the day, exactly what's going to get done. Of course, planning in that space for things to kind of, shift if need be as well. But don't underestimate the value of a plan and sitting down and writing. That is the start of anything that you can physically look at. It started in someone's mind, and then as a plan. And then the steps start to take place for it to manifest. So don't underestimate turning this off right now once you're done and deciding, you know what, let me sit down with a pencil and paper, or let me sit down with the computer if that's better for you, and write out exactly the areas first starting with what can I cut?
Yes.
You mentioned that again, and I had mentioned it before, and that's so important. It's a lot easier to find things that you can cut. What's draining anyway? What's taking up a lot of extra time? What's unnecessarily, this is a funny thing. I'll kind of tell this last story that me and my husband, we had got Disney Plus to watch something specific. I think it was Soul. Have you seen that?
I have. I've seen
Oh my goodness, girl. Yes, I love that. I'm gonna watch it again. But we watched it, two grown people by ourselves. We didn't even know it wasn't even a time with kids. So we had got it for that. So we were looking at what other things were on there. And we had saw one of the shows I used to watch growing up was That's So Raven. I don't know if you were So Raven girl. And so I was like, you know what? I've probably seen every episode. That was my show growing up. So then I go into my calculating business mindset and I'm like, how many episodes is that? How many hours is that? How much time of my life did I spend on watching that? Not to say that you shouldn't have things in your life that bring you joy, that's just enjoyable, and it has nothing to do necessarily with your purpose. But identifying how many of those, it ended up being a week. So about a week to 2 weeks, depending upon how many seasons or whatnot, for every show that you have, that's how much time out of your life that it's going to.
That's good.
That was huge. It was a huge aha for me. I was like, man, you know what? When I'm thinking about adding something on or trying something, or let me see if I like this show, I think about that now. Do I want to dedicate a week to 2 weeks to this? And what could I do differently with that time?
Yes.
You know what I mean? And so taking those baby steps and figuring out what you can cut out is a lot easier than determining what can I add on. Because sometimes we feel like we already have a lot of things on our plate.
That's good.
Absolutely. It was so good talking to you today, Adenike. Any other things you want to share? Of course, like I said, guys, Adenike's links will be at the bottom. Marika said the tough clients definitely teach you the most. Yes, absolutely. And Coach Austin did come back and say, yes, he feels like, even as a new, you can do a system where you have your free, you have your lower priced items, and you have your, so that's awesome. Thanks for that feedback there, Coach Austin, as well. And good morning, Micah. All right. I think we are all good to go. Thanks, honey. That's my hubby said. Great convo, guys. He's going to be joining us next week because next week is Valentine's Day weekend. Wow. So he's actually going to be joining us next Saturday. We're going to be talking about relationship building because I've learned so much, Adenike, about relationship building in the reflection of the relationship with my husband. Because it can tie into so many things. It can tie into the relationships with your business partners, a whole lot of different things. Those are all different types of relationships and different types of ways to create a win-win. So that's what we'll be talking about next week, guys. Of course, you can reach out to Adenike and take a look at her website as well. Is there something that a way for them to join your mailing list on your website right now and something that you're providing?
Oh, absolutely. What I'll do is I will drop my link tree in there because, again, you can really access everything from my link tree. And yeah, like I said, I'm always, to your point, Tracy, trying to get into these, trying to get into the lives and really just kind of share that value and things like that. But there's a ton of other things that, I offer for people who are really just looking for purpose. That is my wheelhouse, purpose, and figuring it out and knowing that it is practical. It's not a pipe dream. And so I'll drop it here in the chat, and absolutely would love to chat with anybody who's kind of trying to figure that piece out as they build their businesses, or even from a career perspective, really think through what that might look like for them.
Awesome. And I will say, guys, definitely from firsthand experience, and Nikki got to do a lot of hanging out, a lot of coffee, a lot of breakfasts, and it was never a drain.
Yeah.
It was never a drain.
Yeah,
I would say if it was, it was just always just filling up and oh wow, this is what you're working on. That sounds great. And here, this is what I'm working on. And those are the type of relationships you guys want to have. Definitely. Did you drop that in the comments as well here so I can put it up your
you know what, I think
I see it. No worries. I should be able to copy
okay.
that.
Well, I was in the wrong one. I was in the private chat.
No problem. Let me drop that here, guys, so you can see her link. And I will see you guys next Saturday, guys. We are coming out with a February calendar. Thank you, Wilhelmina. I appreciate that. She said thank you for the discussion. That's it right there, Adenike.
Yep, that's
awesome. Yes, guys. And so we're going to be popping into our Facebook group, and we're going to be posting a calendar sometime this week for February. So you guys know when we're popping in as far as that's concerned. If you're not familiar with our Facebook group, you can head over to our link as well, our website, and you'll get some information for that as well. I will see you guys in the next live. And thanks again, Adenike.
Thank you. So good to be here.
Awesome.